What is up, YouTube? Welcome back for another episode of Let's Talk Wrestling here on Leon the King TV. Welcome back to Let's Talk Wrestling. It's your host, Leon the King, and tonight we're talking about everything in the world of pro wrestling. Make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button. Hopefully, you're off to a positive week, blessed week, happy week. Hope y'all are staying healthy, living good, eating good, being happy, living right, just doing everything you're doing to live your best life. So we're gonna go right into it today. Tonight, I am going to be talking about the best factions. And when you think about a faction in wrestling, most staples, like big number tag teams, but the biggest factions, you think about a lot of factions in pro wrestling, not just in WWE, but WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW, Lucha Underground, All Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling. So you think about all of those places and these promotions, and this is what they have. So one of the factions kind of make wrestling interesting, the storylines, the matches, the feuds, and yeah, that's one of the things that kind of makes it interesting. Um, Watching a faction like when I was a fan was kind of like, well, I'm still a fan of watching, you know, as a kid growing up, and even still now as a fan, as an adult fan, I'm kind of like, definitely get a little more of them, but it's awesome to see them. But here we go. So first, we got Evolution. Evolution, in my opinion, is one of the greatest pro wrestling factions in all of not just WWE, but in all of pro wrestling. So think of it like this. Evolution consisted of Triple H, who's Hunter Hearst Helmsley, uh, Batista, Randy Orton, Ric Flair. Four big names in wrestling. You got, if I'm correct, all former WWE champions, all former World Heavyweight champions. Um, you know, um, you think about Triple H. He is the current head of creative for WWE, COO. He's I would say kind of played a big important part in wrestling the last 20 years. Um, but at least as far as when I started watching, I think he's kind of was important then and still important now. Even retired from pro wrestling, but one of the all-time greatest. Think about names like Batista, who was a former world champion, former WWE champion. Um, let's see his title runs. I'm trying to see. Um, he gave so, so his first reign with the World Heavyweight title was for 282 days. Um, 282 days was his first reign. And then first title, so he's probably one of the first longest World Heavyweight champions. Um, but yeah, he's been active in wrestling since 1999. all the way through 2019. His last, I mean, what was it, WrestleMania main event? Oh, not a main event, but his last match was against Triple H at WrestleMania 2019 against Triple H. So he closed out his career. Randy Orton, of course, is a let's see, Randy Orton has 14 world title reigns. So he's actually, if I can see, one of the youngest WWE champions. But yeah, he's one of the youngest WWE champions. Then Randy Orton. But then we got Ric Flair, who Ric Flair held the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for 793 days. So they're all former champions. They're all main eventers, and they're some of the four biggest names in wrestling. So Evolution is probably the best. Um, it's versus Triple H at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight title. It's still one of the best WrestleMania matches. Um, you know, Ric Flair versus The Undertaker, Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, and then you got Randy Orton versus John Cena, and Randy Orton versus Triple H. So some of your best matches involving Evolution. Next, I want to say Legacy. Um, Legacy started in, I would say, the formation of Legacy was in 2008, which consisted of Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. Um, I started seeing this faction around 08, 2009, maybe, when I was a kid. And I saw Legacy at the time were feuding with like Triple H, the McMahons, that while they were on the Raw brand. And at the time, Randy held the WWE title after his match at Extreme Rules 09. And, he had his match with Triple H. He had the match with Batista, and then he had all these matches. And then started this long feud with John Cena back in 09. He had matches with like Kofi and stuff like that. So, you know, Cody Rhodes, is to me didn't really get big in wrestling. Probably to like, I would say, more so when he went to Ring of Honor. He had the little run with Impact, Ring of Honor, and then I believe Cody Rhodes was in All Japan. I'm not sure. Um, or was he in New Japan? Yeah, Cody Rhodes was in New Japan, and then he eventually signed with All Elite Wrestling. So he wound up coming to AEW. And then when Cody came to AEW, he was a former AEW World Champion, and he was one of the producers for AEW. So let me see. Um, I remember when he was last in WWE, he was the Stardust nigga, and he had the Stardust gimmick. And then we got to see him as Stardust, and then supposedly left due to creative frustration and departure with the company in like 2016, 2014, around that time. But at the time, like you said, he was the Stardust nigga. Then the Stardust shit was goofy. I didn't really give a shit about the Stardust stuff. It was a little bogus how he took a former Intercontinental champion and booked him like that. So that shit was kind of weird, but he was Stardust. Then we fucking got him in independent. He went back to the fucking independent circuit from 2016 to 2018. And eventually he went to Ring of Honor from 2016 to 2018. He signed with TNA from 2016, a contract with TNA. He debuted in 2016, went all the way through 2017. We got him in New Japan Pro Wrestling from 2016 to 2019. And then in 2018, he formed the AEW promotion with Tony Khan and started All Elite Wrestling from 2018 to 2020, I believe, 2021. And then, he was the former TNT champion. And then we saw him make his departure and come to sign with WWE. Cody has more respect for me now in his career. I have more respect for him than I did years ago, because to me, Cody Rhodes is just, at the time, he was a mid-card guy. I don't think they was going to put a title on him. He wasn't going to be in the main event. He wasn't going to be in the main event picture. He wasn't getting that push. But then we saw him sign with WWE. He had the Hell in a Cell match for Rollins and wrestled with a fucking injury. So that's kind of interesting to me. When you think about stuff like that. He was able to wrestle through that injury and prove that he's low-key still, one of the best wrestlers to do it, and probably one of the first wrestlers to ever wrestle through an injury at a pay-per-view. So, Cody Rhodes is great. Cody Rhodes, the former Intercontinental champion, former TNT champion. And I think one of the last matches he had was with Malachi Black on Dynamite. And I think he put the nigga through a table, made a finisher move, and then got burned. Put the fire on the table and put himself through a table. So we saw some shit like that. And then that was one of the last time we saw Cody Rhodes on AEW, one of the last matches. So Cody's a big name. He wrestled through an injury. He's huge. When he came to WrestleMania, it was a pop, but we all knew it was coming. We all knew he was going to sign with the company. So he came back to WWE and faced and defeated Rollins at WrestleMania. So that was epic, as it was. Then we got Ted DiBiase Jr., where we don't see how his shit from this nigga at all. We don't even know what the fuck or where the fuck Ted DiBiase is, because Ted DiBiase ain't been in a match since 2012, 2011. So we ain't really studying Ted DiBiase. He's just kind of hasn't been in a match. He was only a former. If you look at his title runs, he didn't have a lot. Due to an injury, he relinquished the championship in January 2008. He made his World Wrestling Entertainment television debut on May 26, 2008, and quickly formed a tag team with Cody Rhodes. So Ted DiBiase and Cody are former tag team former tag team champions and a former tag team. So he has a history with Cody, but with Cody Rhodes, but we don't know if Ted DiBiase will ever come back due to an injury he had, I believe. I don't think he'll ever get a Hall of Fame induction. I don't think he was that big a name. Was he a good wrestler? I thought he was decent, but wasn't to me. He wasn't great. You kind of think about he had an independent circuit run from 2013 to 2017. He was in Florida Championship Wrestling from 2007 to 2008, and I was younger then. And then he was with the Legacy faction from 2008 to 2010. Let me try to see. When Legacy first started, though, it consisted of Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, Manu, Sim Snuka, and that was it. Sim Snuka was formerly Deuce. If y'all remember Deuce and Domino, that was a tag team that he was in back in the day. Then you had Manu, who was part of the Noah family, but he was wrestling back in 2000s, late 2000s, when he was contracted with WWE on the Raw brand. So we don't hear nothing from Slim Snuka. We don't hear nothing from Manu, because a lot of these guys were niggas that weren't really big names. Like, I don't really remember shit about Manu or who the fuck he was. I don't know shit about Slim Snuka. So none of these niggas. But he was supposed to be one of the best factions, but I think they were really more important when they focused on Randy, Cody, and Ted, and that's all they needed. So yeah. And then this is kind of outside of well, I'll say this. These guys were good. These guys were good heels, but it'd be interesting to see years from now the three of them get a Hall of Fame induction because how good a faction they were. But next, I want to talk about the Shield. The Shield was Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, who's now Jon Moxley in AEW. So these guys were fucking good. These guys could wrestle. These niggas could put dudes to take. These dudes was diving out through. These dudes made a name for themselves in wrestling. We got Roman, Seth, Dean. They were very athletic. And they still are. Hell, I mean, they still are very athletic. You got Roman, who's the face of WWE. He's carrying WWE on his back. There's no fucking competition other than Karrion Kross. Other than the Karrion Kross nigga, there's no other competition who could face him right now. There's no competition. You can't throw. The only competition you got against Roman Reigns right now is Bobby Lashley, maybe Madcap Moss. I'm not sure, but Bobby Lashley, Karrion Kross. If Solo Sikoa turns, then we getting us. Maybe we saw Drew McIntyre get his ass whooped at Clash of the Castle. So we ain't even got to put McIntyre on the list because we all saw McIntyre lose for both titles. So we ain't got to worry about McIntyre. Now we got nobody else on that roster. The roster is no competition because we got one man who's the face of the company with both titles, leading a faction and main event pay-per-views. That's Reigns. Then you got Seth Rollins, who is one of the greatest wrestlers in WWE today, in all of wrestling. The curb stomp, is an epic finisher. It's like you got somebody like a Seth Rollins who, a former WWE champion, cashed in at WrestleMania 2015. At WrestleMania 31. Then you got him, I believe, former WWE tag team champions, former Raw tag team champions, and then main event at WrestleMania against Lesnar back in 2019. He's only been in one WrestleMania main event. He cashed in 2015, but only has had one WrestleMania main event. So maybe in the future we'll see him get that push again. We'll see him get that main event title shot where he's back in the title picture. If there's one person on the roster right now who needs to get put back in the title picture, it's fucking Rollins. You put him back in the main event picture. And then you got him facing all these other niggas like Riddle and shit. You could put him back in the main event. Then we got, who else? We got Dean Ambrose, first, before I get on Ambrose, Rollins faced Reigns. Rollins faced Ambrose. Rollins faced Riddle. Rollins faced Sting. Rollins faced Edge. This is he's won Money in the Bank in 2014. You're talking about he's Mr. Money in the Bank in 2014. So you're talking about one of the best wrestlers in all of the business, in all promotions. You got to give Rollins respect for being one of the top guys in this current era of wrestling. In the current era, in new generation of WWE, Rollins is like one of the number one big names. I would say he's like number 2 to Roman. So then we got Dean Ambrose, where I'm going to look at his title runs, though. Let's see. Ambrose only won the WWE title once. He won the WWE Championship once. He won the Intercontinental Championship 3 times. And he won the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships twice. He made his 27th, both times with Rollins, which he made him the 27th Triple Crown Champion and 16th Grand Slam Champion. He also won the Money in the Bank ladder match in 2016. So Ambrose was one of the biggest names and top guys they had. Until he was like, fuck this goofy WWE shit. I'm signing with AEW or I'm rolling with them niggas. I'm rolling with AEW because, WWE was not cutting it. They didn't give me the money. So that check wasn't looking good. He fucking walked. That's one of the things that's a little odd about Ambrose. Which I don't really disagree, because I think if you want something better, you go to something better. And I'm sure that he's more of a star in AEW, or treated more like a star in AEW than he was more in WWE, was given that push more. But again, can't forget the Ambrose Asylum match with him and Jericho in 2016 on Raw. That shit was creative. That shit was dope. It was a breath of fresh air. It was different. It was new. We could have seen more of the Asylum matches. That shit was fucking good. But to me, Ambrose could have been like the new generation Steve Austin. He's this badass dude who can cut a promo. He's ready to fight. He's a fucking lunatic, crazy as hell. He can get in the ring, and yes, he's like he's like the Stone, the Steve Austin to me of the generation was Dean Ambrose. So that shows you that WWE really was lacking what they had. And then you got him never main event WrestleMania. Him only winning the WWE title once, and then never cashing in or become a Mr. Money in the Bank. Never won a Royal Rumble. So they kind of wasted on the guy they could have pushed and main evented ASAP, and they did not. They didn't push it. The Shield had a nice entrance. They would come through the ring from. They debuted. All three were NXT dudes. I believe both of them were NXT champions. Roman was an NXT champion. Rollins was an NXT champion. I'm not sure about Ambrose. I don't think Ambrose was an NXT champion, no. But these are three dudes from NXT who were dope, who were good in the ring, and one of them just didn't get pushed right. But you think about, but I like the Dean Ambrose character. I think I preferred more Dean Ambrose than John Moxley. But same character, but I think that Dean Ambrose, same guy, but I just think that, he's probably getting a better push in AEW now than he did a few years ago when he was in WWE. When you fucking think about it, Ambrose is kind of like, I think he just knew what he wanted. He should have got the money he wanted, and should have got the push where he could have instantly became a world champion. But again, that's kind of how WWE was booking him at the time. Like he was a mid-card nigga. And he wasn't mid-card. He wasn't mid-card material. He wasn't mid-card talent. I still think about the match he had at WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar. That was good, A year later, he had a match with Baron Corbin. He had a match. They still never did a storyline with him and Samoa Joe. That's the shit that I want to see. So we got the Shield. They all were in a position to be champions going into WrestleMania that year, but it just didn't work out due to Ambrose constantly coming back with an injury. And then after like 2 or 3 injuries, he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here. I'm signing with AEW and I'm deuces. So I wasn't with the way he went about it. But if he wanted to make better decisions to go to AEW, that was his choice. Next, I want to talk about these guys weren't even in WWE. And this was a TNA Impact faction. What we talking about, Main Event Mafia. For those that remember Main Event Mafia was in TNA. And Main Event Mafia included, let me try to see. Included Kurt Angle, Sting, Booker T, Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner. These guys ran TNA, but these guys ran fucking TNA. These guys were literally going like the faces of TNA. It was odd because they took a faction and created this faction with ex-WWE ex WCW niggas. And this was weird because you put um, these veterans over all this young talent that you had, even in the X division. All the young talent like Jay Lethal, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, um, Suicide. You think about all these dudes, and then they all were kind of like booked to a certain point where they were mid card guys compared to these main event guys. So it was a little weird how they booked it, these veterans over talent, over younger talent, but it probably was because they were trying to get bigger names in wrestling to sell their company and make their company look good. So Main Event Mafia, I would say, is one of the best factions, underrated factions. But in my opinion, they go on this list as best factions. Like what would have happened if these niggas signed a deal back in '09 and came to WWE and somehow feuded with like Legacy? What if these niggas was feuding with Evolution? What if these niggas was feuding with Nexus? That'd be interesting. So Main Event Mafia is on this list for me. I'm gonna have to say the Nexus. Um, the Nexus were NXT guys in 2010, and these guys kind of ran WWE for a little while. They dominated their roster. You had, first of all, you had guys like Wade Barrett, who was never really pushed as a main event guy. They didn't have him on the title hunt after a while. He was like a intercontinental champion, a United States champion, but like never a WWE or World Heavyweight champion. So like these guys were a really good faction because they came in at a time when WWE needed something fresh and new. Back when they were in 2010 through 2011 when they was kind of doing the PG shit. And I think that you had Wade Barrett. Let me see. You had Wade Barrett, Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, Michael Tarver, and David Otunga. Daniel Bryan, Husky Harris, who's Wade Barrett. So Wade Barrett, Bray Wyatt. You had Bray Wyatt, and then you had David Otunga. And Otunga couldn't even fucking wrestle. Like, the nigga was like a bodybuilder. You know, when he stepped in the ring, he wasn't even lifting dudes. He couldn't clothesline, couldn't hit a finisher, couldn't clothesline somebody out of the ring. He didn't really have a draw or connection with the fans. So it was awkward. David Otunga's not on that list. It's like great. He was only in the company for a few years and then left the company. Came back to do some commentating or whatever, but nah. So we got Otunga, then we got Justin Gabriel, who's pretty good. I think he went on to sign with like Global Force or something like that. You had Heath Slater, who was in a tag team with Rhino on SmackDown for a little while, and then signed back with TNA. But Heath Slater, I think, was okay. I think he was good on the roster. He served the purpose while he was on the roster, but not like my favorite or big name or anything. But again, He was a former SmackDown Tag Team Champion. Then you have Michael Tarver, who nobody remembers. Nobody remembers shit about Tarver. If you actually listen to, you Google or YouTube Tarver's music is pretty good. He's a Christian rapper or whatever, but he's got some hot tracks. But you'll like Tarver as his music is pretty good. He signed a deal with some like hip hop label or whatever. But he's like a former wrestler turned rapper. So his name is Michael Tarver. Check him out. But anyway, that consists mostly. And then we had, I think it was Bray Wyatt, and he was Husky Harris. Shocked everybody because he wound up having one of the best gimmicks in WWE today, and he was the wife, the Wyatt family, and then he was the Fiend. So Bray Wyatt's one of the biggest names and one of the biggest draws in wrestling, and so we got him. We had God, who's the other guy? Darren Young, who was part of Primetime Players, him and Titus O'Neil. Once again, you could have done something with Darren Young, but the way he was booked, like he was somebody that was going to get released ASAP. The nigga got no great matches other than being on NXT, being a member of the Nexus, and being one of the first gay wrestlers to come out. Other than that, nothing happened to him. Wasn't pushed. He didn't get a main event. He didn't really sign with any other promotions. He didn't go to an AEW. He didn't go to a TNA. But again, he was somebody you don't hear. His name is Frederick Douglass Rosser. Fred Rosser. And let me see. He was with Florida Championship Wrestling from 2005 to 2010. Signed with NXT, got on NXT, and then was on the main roster as the Nexus. He was with the company, I would say, from 2010 through 2017. He suffered an arm injury while teaming with Sakara in a match against the Shining Stars, and Young was released in October 2017. So we had seen him since 2017. Then he was with a promotion called Shakara. On March 2nd, 2018, it was announced that Rosser, along with former Nexus co-member Michael Tarver and Justin Gabriel, were competing in a King of Trios tournament at a promotion I never heard of called Shakara. Then he was so he signed with some other promotions. He was with New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2020. And then he signed a contract with National Wrestling Alliance, NWA, in 2021 last year, where he became the number one contender for the NWA Television Championship and was defeated by the Pope, D'Angelo De Niro, and dropped the title to Taurus in June 2021. So he signed with NWA last year. But we don't hear shit from Darren Young anymore. Maybe he's trying to get back into wrestling. I thought he was pretty okay. It was just a way for WWE to not use another African American talent and not book right. So they dropped the ball on another good name. But other than that, I mean, you got Wade Barrett commentating on NXT. You got Bray Wyatt, who's rumored to come back and sign with the company. You got Daniel Bryan, who's going to face Moxley next week in a number one to crown the new AEW World Champion. And then Michael Tarver is doing Christian hip hop. So you have nobody else out there doing really anything, you know, in the business. I mean, fuck, I don't even know who else is doing anything. But from what I know, that's kind of all what happened with the Nexus. And then I think you had Ryback, who I thought was shit. I thought he couldn't really get over with the fans. He was, to me, a Goldberg wannabe. He was kind of copping off Goldberg's gimmick and his persona and everything, and the way he was presenting himself. Ryback was a failure, so he flopped. His gimmick kind of flopped. So you didn't really have any other guys doing anything from that faction, which is shocking because these guys could have been over. You had Mason Ryan, who was a one-hit wonder. You have nobody from that faction doing anything great right now. Next, I would say Ministry of Darkness. This was back in like the Attitude Era. You had in the 90s for my time, but this is like during the Attitude Era when Undertaker was like main event and shit. And I'm gonna see what their members consisted of. Undertaker, who's leader of the faction. You had Bradshaw and Farouk, Mideon, Viscera, Shane McMahon, Ken Shamrock, The Brood, Big Boss Man. Then they turned into the corporate ministry, which I didn't like, but you kind of had Ministry of Darkness. And then you had Ron Simmons, Paul Bearer, Christian Edge, and the vampire nigga. I think of the vampire dude. Gangrel. So you had all of them in the faction. You had China, then you had who else? I don't think Kane was with Ministry of Darkness. Kane was never in Ministry of Darkness. That's fucked up. They never put Kane in the Ministry of Darkness. So he was never part of the faction. But he debuted, I think, 1995. So that was back then. Ministry of Darkness was creepy. They were dark. They were mystique. They made WWE interesting back then. If I go on Peacock on the network and I pull up like the Monday Night Raw, all them episodes from the 90s, in the Attitude Era, I'm probably look at like Ministry of Darkness, feuding with like Stone Cold and shit like that. These guys, if you want to, like, I would say Judgment Day, the Judgment Day faction is similar to what Ministry of Darkness was like. Ministry of Darkness, I think, let's see who were the members, man. Christian was in Ministry of Darkness, yeah. So all the Brew members were there. No, I didn't really watch so much of One Ministry. I didn't watch during that era. I wasn't born yet. But then you had Undertaker, who was one of the biggest names in all of wrestling. Like, this is the god of wrestling. Uh, Undertaker, I would say, um, he won the WWE Championship 4 times, the World Heavyweight Championship 3 times, the Hardcore Championship once, and the World Tag Team Championship 6 times. And he also won the Royal Rumble in 2007, which is hard to believe. He only won one Royal Rumble match in his whole fucking career. So we got Undertaker. And then you had Viscera, who was Viscera was also Big Daddy V was also Viscera. Yeah, Viscera was Big Daddy V, who actually passed away in February 18, 2014. But yeah, he was kind of played an interesting part in wrestling. Had the Brood, which consists of Edge, Gangrel, and Christian Cage, who's like wrestling's greats. Edge and Christian had some good tag team matches with the Hardys and the Dudley Boys during like the era when they was in the fucking tag team ladder matches and shit like that. I think they were in the first ever tag team ladder match for the tag team titles years ago. Then you had Ron Simmons, who's, let's see, former WCW champion, WCW World Heavyweight champion, and the first African American to win the WCW title. He's recognized by WWE as the first Black World Champion professional wrestler. So this guy's legendary. He's one of the biggest names. I think he's a former Intercontinental Champion. But yeah, you got Ron Simmons. And you got a couple other niggas I didn't know. But then they had the corporate ministry. Shane McMahon. So next I want to talk about the bloodline. The bloodline, as we know right now, is the best, greatest faction in pro wrestling today. And that's out of all promotions, whether you WWE, whether you AEW, whether you NJPW, All Japan, Lucha Underground. It don't matter what promotion. These guys right now are the most interesting thing in wrestling today since they let Bray Wyatt go last year. You know, they're kind of telling one of the best stories in wrestling right now. They're part of the Noah family. They're a bloodline. They're all related. You got Roman. You got Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso. Then you got Solo Sikoa, who just won the North American Championship on NXT this week. They all fucking being booked as champions right now. Let me see when Solo debuted. I think Solo Sikoa debuted back in 2021 on NXT last year. So Solo is one of the best right now. I think he's got a lot to prove. Imagine if we get him versus Karrion Kross, or we get him versus Drew McIntyre. I'm not sure if he's the one to break up the bloodline or cause that split, but I think that he's definitely going to be a main event guy at some point if he gets a title shot for the undisputed titles. I wouldn't mind seeing Solo as a main event guy, but it's not gonna happen right now. Obviously, they'll probably mid card him because he has the NXT title on his waist. Um, he defeated Carmelo Hayes, so he is like one of the like how many North American champions there's been. Uh, we've got Johnny Gargano, Damian Priest, Carmelo Hayes, and Solo Sikoa. Velveteen Dream, and Adam Cole, Ricochet, Roderick Strong, Keith Lee, Leon Ruff, Bronson Reed, Swerve, Cameron Grimes, and now Solo Sikoa. So there have been only 13 North American champions. I'm going to say it again. Carmelo Hayes, Velveteen Dream, Gargano, Keith Lee, Ricochet, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Swerve Scott, Damian Priest, Cameron Grimes, Bronson Reed, Leon Ruff, and now Solo Sikoa. So 13 North American champions in the history of NXT. That's crazy. So now, look some shit up. I think, trying to figure it out. Sportskeeda just reported that former champion teases move to WWE's main roster following loss to Roman Reigns' stablemate. Who could this be? So WWE superstar Carmelo Hayes. Hayes recently teased a move up to the company's main roster after his recent loss against Solo Sikoa on NXT this past Tuesday night. Melo lost the NXT North American Championship to Sikoa after having held the belt for over 100 days. While NXT has a platform, WWE's third brand is minute in size compared to that of Raw and SmackDown. So with no championship over his shoulder anymore, a move up to the red or blue brand may be in his future. I believe that. He tweeted a picture or something, but I guess there's a tease going around with this tweet that after he lost the North American Championship, he could be coming back to NXT. Come back to the debuting on the main roster. So, yeah, that's one of the biggest teases right now. So, we went through some of the best factions in all of wrestling. Evolution, The Shield, Legacy, Main Event Mafia, Nexus, The Bloodline, Ministry of Darkness, obviously the Four Horsewomen, Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Bayley. These are all four women who were former NXT Women's Champions. Debuted on the main roster in 2015. One of the greatest female stables in WWE. Probably only female stable if you think about it. But probably one of the most successful female stables in all of WWE. Probably is the Four Horsewomen. So then in New Japan Pro, you got Bullet Club. The Bullet Club consists of the AJ Styles, Gallows, Carl Anderson, Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes. Names going and on about who's in Bullet Club. Bullet Club became, I think, one of the most successful factions on the pro wrestling, especially outside of WWE. We try to see who are all members of Bullet Club. So the members with Bullet Club was Kenny Omega, Bad Luck Fale, AJ Styles, Tama Tonga, Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes, Yujiro Takashi, Chase Owens, Marty Scurll, Adam Cole, Hangman Page, Carl Anderson, Cody Hall, Doc Gallows, Frankie Kazarian, El Terrible. So these niggas pretty much dominated New Japan Pro. And then, Gallows and Anderson left WWE, but they're rumored to sign with the company again. We'll see. Prince Devitt, which is Finn Balor, Demon King gimmick. So he was successful as it was. Finn Balor is the first Universal Champion when he faced Rollins in 2016 at SummerSlam. So let's not forget that. But he's the first ever Universal Champion. So then that's Kenny Omega, former AEW World Champion. It's funny I didn't mention AEW factions because AEW has no good factions. I'm not going to say nothing about the Dark Order because they just aren't no fucking good matches. So AEW has no factions that are good right now if you think about it. I don't even like AEW factions. But that was Let's Talk Wrestling. Make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, and I'll check with everybody next time. But should be posting more content tomorrow and this week. So stay tuned. We're gonna put out some more content. And we're definitely gonna be on for Sunday. But we definitely gonna come on tomorrow and put out some more content. So I'll see y'all next time. Stay chill. Peace.